Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
In answer to his question about the subjects,
there are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman, talk today.
Oh, what a compliment. For that, I thank you.
What is happening now? There are hopeless and hungry.
Now it's time for us to stand up to God or we'll fall to nothing.
It's time now for Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Listening to the general public, what the public is saying.
And good afternoon, Radio Cayman Nation, and happy Friday to all of our loyal listeners. As always, you're tuned in to the station of the nation, Radio Cayman, and I'm your guest host, Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. Thank you for letting us into your homes, cars, and offices for today's episode of Talk Today. On our show, we'll be continuing our series on New Year's resolutions featuring the Cayman Islands Development Bank, here to offer some tips and advice on financial planning and saving in the new year, as well as Dr. Lexi Bodden, here to discuss enhancing your relationships, whether it is in relation to parenting, romance, friendships, professional, or any others. As always, we do welcome your feedback and questions and invite you to join the conversation. Simply dial 1-800-534-8255 or 949-8037. Stay tuned for Talk Today following this brief commercial break.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday@candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255.
Courtesy of Live Communication.
Let your voice be heard.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in for today's show, I'm your stand-in host, Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And we have in studio Miss Tracy Ebanks from the Cayman Islands Development Bank, here to discuss financial planning and saving in the new year, if that happens to be one of your New Year's resolutions. Miss Tracy, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for inviting me back on the show again. It's always good to be here.
It is. We're very happy to have you in the studio. And did you have a good Christmas?
I had a good Christmas, and I think like most, I overate, especially sweets, desserts. I'm not usually a dessert eater, but I couldn't resist.
It's time of year. It's chocolate season, as I call it. And it's from Halloween onwards, it's basically chocolate season at that point.
Right. And everybody's excuse for overeating over the holidays is, well, the New Year resolution will be to lose weight.
And that was our show yesterday on New Year's resolutions. We had the fitness guru in the studio. And so if you did pack on a few extra pounds because of all the chocolate and desserts this holiday season, well, you got your tips yesterday on how to shed those pounds in the new year. But on this show today, we're here to talk about the financial planning. One of the top New Year's resolutions, like we said yesterday, is the fitness element. But financial planning and saving money has always been a big one as well. And quick statistic from the U.S., this is according to Fidelity Investments, was that nearly a third of Americans have made a money resolution of some kind for 2019, with about 40% of that is in regards to saving more money, 29% have made a goal of paying down further debt, and about 15% on spending less and just consult on being a little more frugal in how they approach their consumer habits. So talk to us a bit about your take on financial planning for 2019 and how people can accomplish some of these goals.
Well, what you just named out as far as American statistics can be applied in Cayman as well, maybe with slightly different ratios because the cost of living here is different in the States. It's a lot more difficult to save here, but I see one of the issues being there is no savings culture here. especially from an early age, something needs to be done to take this message to the school so we start developing a better savings culture going forward.
Now, when you say savings culture, you mean as far as just the habit, people getting into the habit of saving their funds?
Yes, and I can give you one example too. Is if since we're talking about the USA and Canada, North America, a lot of high school students will do after-school jobs. They'll go flip burgers at McDonald's, Burger King, and that money typically they save that towards an end goal, whether it's to save for tuition or save for their first car, versus getting themselves in a lot of debt. I don't see a lot of that happening here. A lot of the high school students aren't being picked up by some of the companies to, make an income during the summer or their holidays to save towards anything.
That interesting point was just raised back in the day with the seamen and sending funds home, that savings was back in the day. Where do you think the gap happened that kind of went aside?
Where did the gap happen? That's a good question. I'm not sure where it happened. I think going forward from the Siemens to the early 70s when Cayman was in an economic boom, the engineered miracle they called it, jobs were plentiful. Parents were working sometimes 2 jobs to provide for their families. And a lot of the kids just focused on studying and started to go offshore to college. They were getting government scholarships. But somewhere along the line, we kind of dropped the ball in the importance of hard work. And I remember when my kids were growing up, my son used to go to Hobbies and Books and deliver Christmas trees. He'd come home from work covered in sap from the tree, smelling like a pine tree, and he would take that little savings and put that in his bank account. The same thing with my daughter. She used to wrap Christmas presents, stock shelves at Hurley's, bag groceries at Hurley's, and all that taught them the importance of getting to work on time and developing a savings culture into a goal they had further down the road.
Now, so we have the gap. We recognize that there is an issue there with an absence of that saving culture. And with regards to creating that culture now, what are some of the tips that you can recommend to families, to even those teenagers who are in high school, on what to do to actually start that saving cycle now?
Well, again, it's as far as the students go, they should be looking at getting part-time jobs. That environment needs to be fostered a lot more within the business community. There are a lot of responsible teenagers there that are prepared to work. They need to be given the opportunity. And one of the other things I noticed too is, that's not just in Cayman, when you have a debit card, the tendency to overspend is always there. You just swipe your card. You're not really thinking about how much you've spent. I think it's a good idea to actually set a budget where you're putting a certain amount of cash in your pocket, and when that's done, that's done. So technology has come with a lot of convenience, but it's also come with more overspending.
So we have, you're absolutely right. And
I know the banks don't like to hear that. I'm sorry.
No, the banks don't like to hear that. And, businesses don't like to hear that as well, right? I mean, the entire economy does operate based upon consumer spending. So when we start talking about putting money in your pocket and saving, we will see a natural contraction somewhere in that economic model. But so we have kids now looking at part-time jobs and getting an income first before they can start saving. When it comes to adults now, we have one of those options was you just mentioned was put away the debit card and go for the cash option. Use cash to manage your spending, because once that cash is done, the tendency to just pick up the card and swipe it again is gone. What other tips or tools can you offer as far as on that savings element that can help?
Right. Apart from your debit card, then there's the overuse of the credit card. And with that, the exorbitant interest rates. Again, it's very easy to swipe that because you're only paying on the minimum balance per month. So before you know it, your limit is maxed out and you're struggling to pay down your credit card balance. It's just so tempting where, I'm only paying $200 a month on this credit card, but yet you owe them 10 grand. That really adds up over time. So I would recommend, limiting the use of your credit card and focus on paying down any high interest rate debt first.
It's great. Will you repeat that statement one more time? Pay down the high interest rate debt first. Right.
We've seen that the Feds have raised the interest rates again. So rates are going up. That means that if you got a mortgage a couple of years ago with a much lower rate, the bank may be calling you or advising you your payment's going to go up. So that starts to put a pinch on you as well.
Very awkward situation when your bank calls you and says you owe more. We do have a caller on the line. Take that caller now. Caller, good afternoon.
Yes, good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to your guest.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
It's good to hear all of these things, but we all know that when a young person it never used to happen before, at least not in my son times as working after school and still was keeping up with his homework and whatever activities and things like that. He is now 46. It never used to happen before that those words are recorded on the Caymanian business lips and tongue and mouth. You don't have the experience, regardless of how simple that job is. And when they tell that young person that sort of thing, you know how discouraging, we all know how discouraging as parents, how discouraging that is to that young child. That have to stop. And the banks, you hear they're raising interest rate on mortgages and things like that. But you get your little savings and you put it in the bank and they give you point of nothing. And that is horrible. How it is that the banks could do so before, but now that they have much more investors, have much more money in the banks, that they can't do it now. They're killing us out here, killing us. They're ripping us. And I don't want to sound angry, but that's the way it is. And I am going to speak the truth and the way that I see it. Now, I'm not going to go on any further because I feel like I would get angry, and I don't need to take anger out on both of you, especially the guests. I wish you all and your families a great 2019, and let's pray and hope for better with the banks. Oh, I can't forget the insurance companies. Oh my God, that's another joke. It's not a joke. It's reality now. It's reality. Anyway, a good afternoon and a good 2019. God bless you both.
Ma'am, thank you so much, and a very happy New Year to yourself. And thank you for the call and the comment. You're not alone in some of the statements you have made and some of the comments you have just made. Tracy, anything to offer on her comments?
Yes, and I really appreciated your comments, and I can relate to them. And you do make some very valuable points. But I think one of the problems is a lot of information doesn't get passed down to the public, what's really going on in the banking scene. You've heard of the term technology, advancement in technology, and this is creating a lot of excessive costs for these banks as well. With technology comes higher costs, and also I don't know if the caller is aware that the same bank that has bought the majority of shares in Cayman National Bank is now eyeballing the Canadian banks in the Eastern Caribbean. And a lot of this is due to the rising cost of technology, and there's competition with the Bitcoin and the blockchain technologies where, to put in layman's terms, you can send money across the world at the speed of light with no questions asked. There's no due diligence even behind this new type of banking. So it's putting a lot of pressure on the conventional banks, and it's increasing their cost. The commercial banks are more or less tasked with the task of money laundering, drug trafficking, all these sorts of illegal activities. And these Bitcoin, these blockchain technologies don't have the same standards. They don't play by the same rules. They don't have the same costs. It's very unfortunate that this is occurring. So a lot of the Canadian institutions are actually pulling out of the Caribbean because of it. It is what it is. It's a sign of the times, and I think you've noticed that the Scotiabank here has now consolidated into, they took two branches and now consolidated into one. This is a cost-saving measure for them as well. It's all about they're here for business, and they're trying to keep their costs down so they can continue to offer us their services. As far as the interest rates go, it's very hard to control that. As you know, the rates are set with what goes on in the market in the United States. So we follow the same guidelines here. The cost of doing business in Cayman is much greater in the States. A lot of it simply because of economies of scale. They have millions and billions of customers. We don't have the customer base here.
Thank you for clarifying those statements. I appreciate that. On that note, let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll re-explore some more tips on how to save some funds in 2019.
Stay connected and share your favorite holiday moments with Flow. Pick up the Alcatel A1 from $70 or the Samsung J2 Pro, packed with sweet features, from $130. Every week you can win cash and prizes in our Cash Cube when you top up. Also check out our weekly top-up specials. Visit Flow's Facebook and Instagram pages to follow the deals. Plus, top up $25 or more for plenty chances to win great Flow holiday prizes. So make it Flow for everything mobile this Christmas. Visit discoverflow.ky for more. Terms and conditions apply.
I didn't mean to hurt her. Work was tough. We're struggling financially. I had a few drinks to relax, but then the argument started. It was a mistake to hit her. Now I don't have a job. I don't have a wife. I can't afford to feed my family. This was a hard lesson to learn. Never forget that walking away from something unhealthy is brave. Stop to slap. Stop to cycle. Stop the violence.
The Stop the Slap campaign has been proudly sponsored by Cayman National Bank. Stop the slap. Stop the cycle. Stop the violence.
It's more than what we do. It's who we are. We were your official bank of the quincentennial celebrations in 2003. We were your Bank of the Year 4 times. We were voted as the inaugural top employer in 2010. We were the inaugural Business of the Year awardee in 2017. Who are we? We are Cayman National, your local bank, proudly serving you for over 40 years. It's because of you that our journey continues.
This health flash is brought to you by Cleveland Clinic, Florida. Over 65 million people around the world have moderate or severe COPD, a family of diseases that includes emphysema and chronic bronchitis. Cleveland Clinic, Florida offers a wide range of management and treatment options for COPD, including programs focused on education, medication, smoking cessation, and pulmonary rehabilitation. A team of experts is ready to review your symptoms and test results to develop a comprehensive treatment plan. For more information, visit clevelandclinicflorida.org.
Radio Cayman News, Year in Review.
I am Kilpatrick.
Anwar Chowdhury.
Martin Keith Roper.
It is a worrying development.
Not just the financial industry that is at risk, but our very existence.
The civil service is focused on correcting the failures.
Government is insisting on pursuing this ill-advised course of action.
We will answer any questions about the cruise birthing facility.
Beneficial ownership, arrests in government, cruise birthing facilities, 3 governors, 1 year. Catch an in-depth look back at these stories and more during Radio Cayman's Year in Review.
Radio Command's Year in Review, proudly brought to you by CUC. You've got the power. Health City, transforming healthcare, changing lives. Michael Webster of Cayman Insurance Center. Don't take chances with your family's future. And FSH Design. Let your imagination grow with FSH Design.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in for today's show, I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And we have in studio CEO and General Manager of the Cayman Islands Development Bank, Ms. Tracy Ebanks, here to talk about helping those who have planned to make financial savings, a New Year's resolution, help accomplish those goals. Now, we do have a caller on the line. Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, all that good stuff.
Thank you, sir, and same to you and your family.
I'm listening to you, and I thought to myself, I'm going to call in and make a comment. You know, one of the things I've noticed recently, that, you know, with all the stuff that's going on in Cayman, a tendency that people tend, not just people, but governments as well, they have a tendency that when things are going well, when you know everybody's making money and everybody does it, instead of putting aside things for that rainy day, they spend like it's going out of style. I've watched recently this last year how many people, because they have the money, they're getting into things like apartments, building new apartments, and they're preparing for this thing that's going to happen because they, you know, we have a tendency now to project the income that we're going to have. They don't wait till we get it and then we say we got it. They make these projections, how many tourists we're going to get, how many this we're going to get. You know. It seems to me that that's one of the worst things we do. It used to be back in the day when we had a financial secretary, or just Mr. Wastel Johnson, who used to do the accounting and all that stuff with the government, that he would tell government that when they had a certain amount of money that they could spend for something, he'd say, well, this is what we can spend. And they would hold the government to that quote. What I'm saying is this. We now are building, not just government, but private sector. People are building apartments, they're building hotels, they're building all this stuff. And believe me, if you watch the stock market today, what I see is that's happening now. That before the end of this year, or before the end of next year, if not the beginning of the year, there's going to be a recession that we have never seen. This is my prediction. And you're going to have a thing in the United States. You can declare martial law because things can be so bad. And Cayman is going to be in the middle of it, and we don't have no resources to do anything with. With all the work permits we got, with all the people that are here on work permits and stuff like that, where do they go? You're talking about a mess we're going to be in, but nobody listens because we are making money now, and instead of saving it for that rainy day which is going to come, they spend. My suggestion is this. If you got, well, I'm not going to make any suggestion because what I'm saying is this. Use your head and don't listen to the predictions about how much money we're going to make and this thing. I just saw something coming down just now on the road where they got somebody who's got these two-wheel machines riding down the sidewalk while the people who are walking, it's not a side ride, it's a sidewalk. The people who are walking have to walk on the side of the street to get where they're going. Now, there's something wrong with that picture, and this is what's happening because we let every Tom, Dick, and Harry get whatever they want, and they friend of somebody in government, and they get it, and they give them license to do anything in this island, and we've gone crazy. Cars, we got too many. I mean,
no.
I'm saddened to see what's happening. God bless this island.
Caller, thank you so much for your call. We do appreciate the input. You made some very valid points. I touched on to what Miss Tracy said earlier in the show about an absence and a loss of that savings culture, and that there's a failure to actually plan and save for that rainy day. And Tracy, how do we approach that saving for that rainy day?
Yeah, I agree. He made some very valid points, and it goes back to something he said that I was going to bring up. When you're in a business, let's take a step back and talk from a business context versus we've been talking a lot about the personal side of savings. When it's high season, businesses do well, they thrive, they should be putting money aside for when the low season comes. Sometimes that doesn't happen, unfortunately, but that's a business choice, a business decision. I can't get involved too much in the political side due to my position, but I can say to the caller that Cayman relies heavily on instituting fiscal policy measures by way of the construction industry. We don't have the luxury, like North America, to institute monetary policy that easily because our CI dollar is fixed to the US dollar. So it's a little more difficult for us than it is our neighbors to the north. And yes, we do rely pretty heavily on the construction industry for our source of revenue. I'm sure government is keeping an eye on inflation. When things start to heat up, they have to be cognizant of that they have to take a step back and say, maybe we are building too fast. There's a lot of jobs now, but any economy in the world is cyclical. The pendulum is going to swing back and forth. But again, I'm going to leave that subject for the politicians to debate. But the gentleman does make some very valid points. We should be saving in times of greatness because we know the famine is going to come eventually.
Now, Tracy, during the break, we were talking briefly about spending of money and when to go to credit and when to go to cash and how to maximize on those. Can you elaborate a bit for us on that?
Right. And we were talking a lot about personal savings habits, but there are tips for businesses as well. And there are times when a business should be borrowing versus using cash. If your sales are growing, that is going to require probably additional borrowing to keep up with it because you need to ramp up your inventory, you need to hire more staff. So there are times where, yes, it is wise to borrow and save your cash during an expansion period. Also, for a business, if you have credit terms, if you have good credit terms, well, pay your bills on time, and you can get cost savings that way as well, because you know you're going to get a finance charge if you're not paying those payables on time. Going back to the personal side of things again, I think a lot of people, when they're borrowing money from banks as well, they need to really ask more questions from their lenders. What am I signing? Sometimes banks offer 100% financing on products, and that may sound like the best thing since sliced bread, but the more you borrow, the more the interest rate's going to be, the more you're paying back the bank. It is always wise to put in some equity of your own. That way your interest costs are going to stay down, and you already have some skin in the game. For example, you're paying 100%, you're getting 100% financing for a car loan. As soon as you turn the ignition and drive that car off the lot, your car depreciates 25% automatically. So you may have borrowed $10,000 for that car, but the car is no longer worth $10,000 as soon as you drive it away from the dealer. So I know the temptation is there for the 100% financing, but it's always best to see if you can put something into it in the event you need to sell that vehicle. It breaks down, you need to get repairs. you're not going to be able to get any more money because guess what? You're already at 100% financing. There's no equity in it whatsoever. I just used a very basic example from a car, but that applies to any loan. It's always best to look at, matching the term with the type of loan that you have, especially for a business. You wouldn't want to get a long-term loan to pay for something that has a short life.
Of course.
And the same rule should apply for vehicles.
Very valuable tips there. We do have to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we do have several callers on the line. So take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with more Talk Today right after this.
I didn't mean to hurt her. Work was tough. We're struggling financially. I had a few drinks to relax, but then the argument started. It was a mistake to hit her. Now I don't have a job. I don't have a wife. I can't afford to feed my family. This was a hard lesson to learn. Never forget that walking away from something unhealthy is brave. Stop to slap. Stop to cycle. Stop the violence.
The Stop the Slap campaign, proudly sponsored by Foster's IGA. Stop the slap. Stop the cycle. Stop the violence.
Who's the leader in savings?
It's Foster's.
Bring in the new year with Foster's IGA. Cook a delicious New Year's roast or have us prepare your whole dinner. Is cooking on your list of New Year's resolutions? Let Tanya's Kitchen help you out. And with great savings from Foster's IGA, this may just be the one resolution you actually keep. Visit Tanya'sKitchen.ky for recipes and inspiration. From all of us at Foster's IGA, Priced Right, and Bay Market, thanks for shopping with us in 2018.
At Foster's Food Fair IGA, we care.
I am worried about my employees' health insurance. Are there any companies out there that I can rely on for great coverage, affordable payments, and who will work to make the switch as easy as possible? Or am I asking for too much?
You sound like you need Fidelity Health. At Fidelity, they offer great coverage through a highly rated and trusted carrier, payments I can afford, and with no on-island deductible on all the plans they offer. Best of all, they offered my company 50% back on the first month's premium.
This is too important. Today's the day I am switching to Fidelity Health.
Make the easy switch to Fidelity today and get 50% cash back on your first month's premium until December 31st. Call 949-7822 to make your switch now.
Brandsource Home Gallery has been appointed the exclusive Cayman supplier for Duravit bathroom products. Duravit is the leading international manufacturer of bathroom ceramics, tubs, and showers, recognized around the world for beautiful, functional products. Winner of top industry awards, Duravit collaborates with leading European designers to provide the most elegant and innovative bath products. If you're ready to bring style, comfort, and innovation to your bathroom, visit Brandsource Home Gallery to see the new Duravit showroom and meet the in-house bath designer. Whether you're planning a functional family bathroom or a personal spa retreat, browse the Duravit collection and be inspired. Brandsource Home Gallery, delivering a new standard in custom designed bathrooms. Brandsource Home Gallery, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in for our show today, I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Stilling Dwayne Ebanks, and I'm joined in the studio with Ms. Tracy Ebanks, the CEO and General Manager of the Cayman Islands Development Bank. And we're discussing how to save and increase your savings for 2019 if financial planning was one of your New Year's resolutions. Now we do have a caller on the line. Good afternoon, caller.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Singh, and wonderful young lady there, Mr. Banks.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good advice.
Merry Christmas.
I can barely hear you, but hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can, sir.
Yes, a very Merry Christmas, all the rest of the season to you all, your families, and all those people here in Cayman. And a happy and prosperous, peaceful, blessed New Year when it comes, of course. I heard my friend Mr. Ackerman there, and I understand a lot of what he's saying because I can remember those days in Cayman. It is very,
essential. I've spoken of this before, and I'll repeat it, even if I'm cried down and belabored, criticized. We are not the same Cayman or Caymanians that we were 40 years ago, 45 years ago at all. We moved away from the type of economy that we had, and we moved into a new economy, whereby we're mostly dependent on monies coming in here to handle it for people who have huge manufacturing concerns, because that's where money is made from, on the backs of labor. Doesn't matter what form, whether it's making computers or making phones, iPads, or whatever, cars, huge heavy equipment, ships, whatever, manufacturing. That's where money is made, in factories and manufacturing, mining, and so forth, oil. What we have is a unique situation in Cayman. First of all, our population has quadrupled in the last 40 years or so. We cannot use any other country as a yardstick to measure, because none has. I cannot think of any other country, particularly those around us. We have a very unique situation, and it does affect our whole ideology, our whole system of government, and what we're doing to try to build our country or to make our country progress. It's a completely different thing from Mr. Russell Johnson's days. Very, very different.
Sir, you're most absolutely correct.
Number two, we are completely dependent, 99%, on consumption-based taxation only, which means more is better. Enough is never enough. We have much, much too many cars on the road, and we can't blame it our elected representatives. We blame them every day. Before they're elected, they were good friends. After they're elected, they're enemies, they're monsters, they're corrupt, whatever. The reality is we have created a system that, in my opinion, is doomed to failure, because we are totally dependent on consumption-based taxation only. More cars, more roads to build, which takes a lot of money. The roads for those cars and trucks, and also we need to build more buildings, more hotels, more condominiums to find work for the people. We have 130 nationalities, so to eke out and separate and say we're going to try to keep our Caymanian culture going. Generational Caymanians are outnumbered. There's no other country around us even close to that here by the total population. That's another major point that makes a difference. It is time we stop being naive and understand what we're grappling with. We have a social services program that's doing their very best to help our people. Hundreds of charities, and there's so much billions of dollars passing through here every week. Yet we have to depend a lot on charities. Can't anyone see that there's something wrong with that?
Sir, no, I do appreciate it. I do ask that you leave it there for a moment. You made some very valid points. We do want to get back to Ms. Tracy here to evaluate some of the points that she's made. So we do thank you again for your call. Ms. Tracy, he made some valid points, and he's similar to what the last caller had mentioned as well about the change in culture that has happened. And the last caller just brought up the change in how the economy has actually drastically changed in the past 40 years, population-wise, and how some of our consumption habits are what is driving the absence of savings that we have. So back to how we can correct this matter now from the personal standpoint.
Yeah. It's always interesting. This is the first time I've been able to take some calls, so it's great. I'd love to come back and do this a bit longer. We have gone off the subject matter, but the gentleman does, speak from the heart, speaks from experience, and speaks to the frustrations that are shared by many. And it does start with education. Like I alluded to earlier, if kids can somehow get part-time jobs and start saving towards a goal, even if the parents are helping their kids with this, I'll give you X amount a week like an allowance, save towards something. This all helps because education is key for our kids. They're the leaders of the future, the leaders of this country. And we need to ensure that our kids are getting the best education from the top universities anywhere in the world so they can come back and affect that change. But the only how that's going to happen is, like I said, developing better savings habits, giving that information to our students so they're starting at an early age. Where I work, the CIDB, we have a very robust student loan program. Typically, we finance the shortfall from whatever they don't get from by way of a government scholarship. So I've seen the numbers go down. I'm not sure why. I think a lot of it is because a lot of the students are doing their 2 years here at UCCI before they go overseas to complete their bachelor's. But I would love to see those student number loans go up. We do live in the world of, it's a global world. Globalization is here to stay. I've actually gone to the high school, the Clifton Hunter High School, and shared my research with the students and told them, when you go home from school, pick up the phone and dial Flow, Lime, or Flow they're now called, and the voice that's greeting you on the other end of that phone, it's not a Caymanian voice. It's a foreign voice from another country, from a call center. That's globalization. So we are kidding ourselves if we are telling people, because you're Caymanian, you have the right to the first job. What should we should be telling our children is, you are Caymanian, you have a right to a job in your country, but you have to also earn it. They have to earn it. And the only how that's going to happen is if they get a good quality education as well.
You know, we getting back to our New Year's resolutions element here, when it comes to New Year's resolutions, ultimately any resolution is going to come down to is the changing of how our habits manifest themselves and how we conduct ourselves throughout the year. So whether it's talking about the weight loss from yesterday or now talking about financial planning and savings, changing your consumer behavior, changing how you manage your finances is key. And a lot of people, little mistakes can cost big down the road. And so a couple tips that we want to definitely leave our listeners with on just how to really make 2019 the year you change and actually develop the savings that you've wanted to have. Tracy, if I can ask you to go back to the spending for businesses and the use of cash versus credit, because that was such a key point. And we are a voice for the small business community at the same time. And I think a lot of our listeners, whether from their personal standpoint or from their small business standpoint, can really benefit from some of those tips that you mentioned earlier. If we can have, because we did get a bit off topic earlier, if we can get back to those and just refresh our listeners on some of those tips, that'd be greatly appreciated.
On the business side?
Yes, please.
Right. What I was saying is sometimes it is a better scenario to actually get a line of credit versus use your cash. But it all depends. You may be growing your business, so it would be a good idea to finance some of that versus using your own money. For the same reason, when the slow season, you're going to need some of that cash that you've saved. Also, I had a note here, too, to talk about marketing. When you're doing a marketing campaign, social media is a very powerful tool. You don't necessarily have to pay for a lot of marketing advertising. Word of mouth, social media, that's free. Facebook is free. You got Instagram, you got Twitter. So you have all these free social media marketing devices available to you. That's a good way to save money for your business. Also, silly as it sounds, I know I said don't use credit cards too much, but you do crank up miles with some of these credit cards, and that can also be used for purchases as well. So I know it's a guy thing. Girls are very good at coupons and cards and using discount cards, but it's kind of maybe a macho guy thing where they don't want to be seen using coupons or taking out cards for points, but it all adds up. Even to the Hurley's rewards cards, you can buy stuff with those points. So all these things add up and save you money. So guys out there, please use these coupons and these reward systems because you will save a lot of money. And carpool. Let's not forget carpooling. It's very big elsewhere in the world. We should be encouraging more carpooling here. You'd save a lot of money on maintenance and wear and tear on your vehicles until we get a good public transport bus system.
Tracy, great tips, and can definitely help a lot. And if I could only add to that is to manage every penny that's in your pocket, every penny you have. Find a penny, pick it up, and all day long you'll have good luck was the saying I remember as a kid. But some of the ways you can really start your 2019 journey on financial planning is identify the financial goals that you want, whether that is to save money, to pay down on debt, or to reduce your household spending. Create that budget. Look at 2018. Look at any areas from 2018, whether it was going out to the movies too much, going out to eat too much, spending frivolously on areas that you could have minimized that spending a little more, and actually write them all down. Draw a little bubble around it, and then make your budget for 2019 and put the 2 pages together and figure out how you're going to change and then stick to it. A couple other tips I managed to pull off that same Fidelity website was things like home maintenance, taking the initiative on preventative home maintenance, such as changing your air filters, patching leaks in your air system to manage what your electric bill is every month. And do a Google search. Just jump on Google and type in how can I save money in 2019, and you'll be surprised at the wealth of information that just pops up, and take what's valuable from that and apply it.
And one final thing I would like to share is that I have very qualified staff at the bank that if anybody needs financial counseling, financial advice, we'd be more than happy to speak with them. I know sometimes it's a difficult subject for people, but we need to encourage that dialogue because there's people out there that really care. And like I said, I have some qualified staff there that will take the time to sit down, regardless if you're a customer of CIDB or another bank. We will sit down and talk with you and hopefully give you some solutions to some of your struggles.
Tracy, thank you so much for coming in today. I do appreciate it. And what is the number at the bank that they can reach you at?
The main line is 949-7511.
And do you have a website?
Yes, we do. It's www.cidb.ky.
Tracy, thank you so much for coming in, and all the best for 2019. On that note, listeners, we'll take a quick short break. When we come back, we'll be sitting down with Dr. Lexi Bodden talking about how you can enhance your personal relationships going into 2019. Be right back with more Talk Today right after this.
Continuing the Caymanian tradition.
Let Cora keep my ground so clean.
The heart and soul of the Cayman people. Thank you for keeping the culture alive.
There's the news every day. From East End to Georgetown, down into West Bay.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
On Thursday, just after 1 p.m., police and other emergency personnel were dispatched by the 911 Communications Center to a location off Austin Connolly Drive in East End, where it was reported that a man was kite surfing and was swept away by the wind, which caused him to collide into a building. The man sustained critical injuries to his body. EMS transported the man to the hospital for treatment, where he later succumbed to his injuries. The man is identified as 63-year-old Thomas Downer from the United States. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines. In news elsewhere, the rising number of migrants attempting to cross the Channel in small boats has been declared a major incident by the UK Home Secretary. Sajid Javid has asked for an urgent call with his French counterpart about the situation. The Home Office said there was concern that it is only a matter of time before people lose their lives. U.S. President Donald Trump has threatened to shut down the border with Mexico over illegal immigration if Congress fails to fund his proposed wall. Either we finish the wall, or we close the border, the U.S. President tweeted after nearly a week of deadlock in Washington over the federal budget. Confirming the threat to close the border was real, the White House said negotiations with Congress had stalled. And Hollywood actress Angelina Jolie has hinted that she is considering a movie into politics in the future. In an interview on BBC's Today program, she said she would have dismissed this 20 years ago, but would now go where she was needed. Jolie, who is a special envoy to the UN Refugee Agency, was the guest editor of the Today program this morning. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Congratulations to the 2018 Junior Achievement Company Retire. Gold medal winners of the JA America's Company of the Year competition held recently in Lima, Peru. Cayman Company Retire outperformed junior achievement teams from 19 countries, including Canada, many countries from Latin America and the Caribbean. Team Cayman, sponsored by Cayman Airways, was an environmental recycling company providing inspiration to junior achievement companies across the Western Hemisphere. Congratulations to team leader Martina Watler and 13 team members, including Alex Bodden, Sharon Roy, Samrudi Tagal Palawar, and Harlia Santo of Retire Limited, a Cayman Airways sponsored company. Junior Achievement, a youth inspiration program covering over 12,000 participants over 30 years, proudly developed and operated by Rotary Central Cayman Islands.
Honey, our fridge has stopped working again. Everything in the freezer is melting. We need to get this repaired right away. I'm calling Brand Source Service.
When you need the very best appliance service, call Brand Source Service at 623-5000. Offering service and installation of all brands and models of appliances. Brand Source Service is Cayman's source for appliance parts and repairs, with qualified and experienced technicians and the island's largest stock of appliance parts. Brand Source Service will have your repair completed in a flash. So, whatever the problem is, call the experts at 623-5000. Brand Source Service, Dorsey Drive, Industrial Park. Telephone 623-5000.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in for our show this afternoon, I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And we've spent the better part of yesterday and all of today discussing New Year's resolutions. And we've covered the fitness side of things. We've covered eco-conscious changes for 2019. We just had Ms. Tracy in studio discussing financial planning and savings for 2019, always a very hot topic. And now we're pleased to have Dr. Lexi Bodden in studio here to talk about how you can enhance your relationships, various types, from your relationship with your children, to your spouse, to girlfriends or boyfriends, to your coworkers, to your friends, all of them, all under one umbrella. How are you today, Dr. Lexi?
Yeah, no, I'm great, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Relationships are always important. You know, humans being social creatures, most of our life revolves around dealing with other people.
Yes.
And I think a lot of us have probably had more interaction with family and friends and loved ones than we care for in the last couple of weeks, which is what the holidays are all about.
Yes.
Which is good. So looking at finding some balance again in relationships in the new year is always good.
Some people are probably looking for a little break as well. Some people are
yes.
Yes, this is like that time frame between New Year's and Christmas when I can just,
take a break, relax, clean up. That was what I was looking forward to most, I'm not going to lie. Getting the house sorted.
It happens. Like, you do all that prep cleaning before Christmas.
Yep.
Then everything goes out the window.
It's amazing how much stuff comes in at Christmas.
It's amazing. It's like going on vacation, right? You have to pack to get everything in your suitcase, and you go on vacation, you explode your suitcase,
Yep.
and then you have to come back home at some point and repack everything and figure out how everything gets back into the suitcase again.
Oh, yeah. And then you get home and you have to unpack and figure out where you can put everything now. Because when you're on the trip, it seemed like such a great idea to buy souvenirs everywhere you went.
It's exactly what happens.
Yep.
So we talk about, let's talk about one of the, I'm a dad, and the parenting side of things. And we talk about parents and their relationship with their kids in 2019. It's not always the top of the list for New Year's resolutions, but I don't think any parent out there would honestly say, I don't want to be a better parent tomorrow than I was today. What are some of the things we can talk about with parents on how they can enhance their parenting journey, so to speak, in 2019?
Yeah. Well, and I think that parents today are facing much different challenges than parents did before.
Absolutely.
Dealing with electronics especially, and how much screen time is ideal, and what do I do to get them off of it? When they come off of it, what do I do with them? You know, one of my teachers had told me that what children value most is time. And so looking to spend more time, more quality time with children is going to be, whether it's kids or teenagers, you know, getting some good FaceTime in with them is often helpful to build the relationship. And a lot of times, because parents are the ones who have to be the disciplinarians and the ones that bring in the structure, it's often difficult to balance that with being, you know, fun and caring and really enjoying the time with your kids as well.
It's interesting when we talk about the electronics element. It's saw a great post very recently of a mother and her son, and they're both reading a book.
Okay.
And the comment to it was, how did you get your son to read the book? And the comment came from the mother was, my child didn't learn by me telling him, he learned by copying me.
Okay.
And it's here where children tend to emulate their parents in so many ways, more ways than one.
Oh, yeah.
And if we look at the electronics, is the electronics a scenario of the copycat scenario happening, or just a filling the time void?
Yeah. Well, so often all of us have difficulties with too much screen time. And so, so a lot of times parents, even when you see, like, even if the kids are like at the park or something, the parents are on their phones as well. I'm guilty of the same. I take my dog swimming and I might check Facebook. I'm not going to lie. You know, so us practicing the healthier versions of that, of putting phones away, like for dinner time, for example.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I've seen recommended is to have all the phones put away, like have a basket for it to put it away for dinner time, or for something like a family fun night, like board games. I work with a lot of kids, and, you know, board games just aren't as popular as they used to be. They're a lot more work. They take more time than a video game or an electronic game, but there's kids get so much from them. You know, when they come into my office, and mine are all therapeutic games, but we do have some, you know, some of the traditional games in there as well. And they learn so much from the interactions with the parents in those kinds of games. They learn, they're getting good time with the parents, right? They will get the parents' attention somehow. So if we can give them healthy ways and pro-social ways of doing that, all the better. But they get the time with the parents. They learn proper social skills. Taking turns is something that takes practice. And a lot of them will have, you know, different activities to do or money to count. So it brings in other ideas. Or games like Life have different problem-solving things to think about. And, you know, a lot of them will bring up really interesting discussions as well.
And there's even so much like puzzles. As simple as a puzzle can be. And I've seen puzzles for like the iPad and phones, and I kind of got really sad when I saw the puzzle on the iPad. I went, hold on a second. I don't know if I want my son actually moving this piece. I want him picking it up and turning it upside down.
Yeah.
To figure it out. And
exactly.
my son loves puzzles, so it's an easy fix for that one. But so we have board games. We have reducing screen time. Now, for those that have that difficult time putting down the phone, because there's people that have the phone in their hands in the morning. It's dinner time. It's nighttime. It's in their bed with them at night.
Yes.
Because if we're talking about our kids reducing screen time, I think you're right. It starts with parents emulating the proper behavior they want their kids to follow.
Agreed.
If they don't want them playing video games, it means equally probably turning the TV off at nighttime as well. So it's not, well, how come you get to do that? Why can't I do that?
Yeah.
What are the tips you'd offer parents then for putting down the phone? You mentioned dinner, put the phone in the basket.
Yep.
Is there any other tips you can offer on the phone?
Yeah, you could do like a technology timeout or a technology break, where it might be like maybe in the afternoon that you guys will put your phones away and go outside to play. For managing kids' screen time, there are different apps you can get to control it. Okay. So that way they can, so if they're allotted like maybe half an hour of screen time, then they're able to use that when they want, but then after that it will shut it off.
Oh, okay.
And those are discussions that you can have beforehand so the kid knows what the plan is. Because if it just shuts off in the middle of their game, they're not going to be happy.
No, I wouldn't have been happy.
Yeah, exactly. So having a plan for how much is allowed and when they're going to do it can be helpful so the kid is aware of what's going on.
Fair enough.
We actually, screen time was actually what was the theme for World Mental Health Day this year in Cayman. So Dr. Brown and I have done several presentations on it, and kids spend anywhere from 3 to 8 hours on screens. The 8 hours included some of the schoolwork as well. But it's amazing. What was really interesting was that the ones that had less than 3 hours screen time, which was considered the minimal level, reported greater satisfaction with life and had higher grades and fewer difficulties. So a lot of the mental health difficulties that we've talked about as far as like isolation, sadness, worry, those kinds of things are often associated with increased screen time. So, it's a good practice for us to get off because it also comes between romantic relationships as well, between parents or between partners.
Absolutely.
So the phones get in the way a lot.
They do. So like I'm an anti-phone guy. I'm going to qualify that statement a little bit. I do use the phone quite often for work, but I'm very opposed to using my phone at home. Mm-hmm. So when I get home, I tend to put my phone down and I don't pick it up again until I have to leave the next morning.
Okay.
And that was my way of preventing that addiction to social media, whatever it was. It was just, I'm not going to touch the phone. I have no reason.
Move.
Yeah, it was an easy way. So my son doesn't have the inclination to ever get a cell phone. He's only 6, but he doesn't have that drive to get a cell phone.
It starts early.
It does start early. It does. And it can be annoying for family and friends who are trying to reach me on the weekends, but I'm a planner. So it's a scenario of if we want to hang out on Sunday, we're going to plan from Friday. Because I'm not touching that phone on Saturday. And that was just how I managed it myself. And
like we talked about warning children about the plan for the screen time, we can tell friends as well. If friends know that on Saturday you're not on your phone, they will eventually learn if they want to hang out with you. They call you during the week.
I'm a bit of old school in that one because we talk about back in the day, you had to plan. If you didn't plan,
if they went home, there's no guarantees.
Well, there's no guarantees. You missed your ride. If I wasn't standing on that corner when I need to be there, I'm not getting home.
Yeah,
you have to be planners. You have to be a little more proactive. And I don't want to call it a lazy culture, but we became very convenient with phones, and we didn't have to plan anymore because the phone state. We used to walk around with the phone book. I remember my mom had a bag with a phone book in it.
I remember those.
Like that was the fact. We had a phone book and it said a home phone and a work phone.
Yeah.
And that's what the phone books had. Now it was all on a cell phone.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to remember phone numbers. You didn't have to memorize them. Yep. And so, but we've changed, and we're digressing from the topic. But so we have electronics and minimizing the screen time that kids are on their phones.
Yeah.
We talk about bringing board games into it. What about just basic communication? Because when we talk about working with teenagers, and you mentioned that FaceTime, rarely do we have the very eager teenager who's 16 and says, "Yes, Mom, I want to hang out with you." Yeah. It's not natural for that to happen.
Yeah.
Or rare, rather.
Yeah. Well, so as they get older and they're looking for more independence, it might just be, the hope would be to establish that relationship from earlier, because once they get to teens, they're facing a lot more difficult things in society. And at that age, they are going to be looking more to peers as their main source of social support.
Of course.
So hope is that by that time, you've established the relationship. What we want them to know is that they can trust you. We trust them to make their own decisions, but that should they need help, that you're going to be there for them. And so a lot of that is going to be, it's good to ask questions as things come up on the TV about drugs, about relationships, about anything that they might be facing. Like 13 Reasons Why brought suicide into a lot of discussions. As you get these opportunities, take the chance to talk to them and explore the topic. See what let them talk first. To see what they're thinking about it. What are kids telling them at school? What do they know? What are their opinions on it? I think a lot of times we panic and we want to tell them what they need to do. They may already know. So ask questions first to see where they're at and what they understand. And that will give you a chance to then bring in some additional information that they may not have thought of, or for you to be like, yeah, all right, my kid knows what's going on.
He's got
it.
All right. We have, okay, so when we talk about then the getting increased amount of quality time, and what are some of the, because we live in a busy society. We live in a society where we're always on the go and trying to find time to actually slow down, to actually spend that quality time together. I force it. I force that quality time. So I make that, but I've done it for years. So it's not a scenario where I'm trying to change a habit on this.
Yeah.
If you're trying to actually improve and change a habit on spending quality time and reducing screen time, it's easy to say, you can just go to the beach or you can just go and do this, but what are some of the easy, cost-effective ways you could recommend for parents to actually get that increased quality time by slowing down as well?
Yeah, and you may just be starting with one evening a week or something, you know, which might be either a game night. Game nights are one of my favorites. But even like a dinner, something like that can be an easy way. You have to eat.
Of course.
So, and a lot of times these days, because schedules are so different, kids will eat in their room, parents eat at their desk or in the living room, and so it's missing an opportunity that you could have to interact and to discuss things. So I would say plan something. And if you've got older kids with hectic schedules, you know, talk to them, see what night will work, maybe like a Sunday evening, maybe a Wednesday evening, whatever night will most likely work for everyone, and that way everyone can plan for it. If you know that each Sunday at 4 or at 6 we have family dinner, then that way you can plan around it and book it in. I know you said you force it, but it's planning, which is good. You know, and a lot of times when we look back, we'll say we wish we could have done these kinds of things. So going ahead, and it's going to be awkward sometimes, and sometimes, you know, you may have to cancel or reschedule. Be flexible.
Yeah.
We're all human.
Yeah.
But I'd say go ahead and plan it. You know, if you got older kids or adult kids, and maybe once a month, but go ahead and plan something that all of you are interested in and looking forward to.
I guess even when we talk about dinners, is even making dinner together.
Yeah, I don't like to cook. That's why I didn't say it like that.
See, I love to cook, so it's actually, for me, it was easy. I'm like, I love cooking.
I do sit with my mom and my sister when they cook and chat, and then I go back.
You sit on the other side of the counter while they're actually...
Exactly.
Got it.
Actually, we drink tea now. That's what we're trying to stop drinking sodas, so we're drinking tea. So I will make them tea.
That was great. So they do the cooking. You sit on the other side of the tea. I love it.
Yeah,
that's great.
Keep them company. I will chop stuff if they need.
Fair enough.
Cooking's definitely not my thing, but it was actually my mom and my sister enjoys cooking. That's something they've actually done together since she was little.
Okay.
She's fabulous now. You know, from all the years, it boosted her confidence in it. And so she's really great with trying new things, and she'll take my mom's recipes and make them her own. Sometimes it works. Most of the time it works.
Sometimes it works.
Most of the time it works. She's actually
she's
really
not
great
listening.
with that. Yeah, sorry. No, she's really great. She puts her own spin on it, and so it's really great to see how that has come along. And so that's the idea, is that kind of planting it from early.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So there you go, parents. You could always, whether you like cooking or not, you could always try and attempt the, you know.
Even things like going to the park, like Airport Park, Dart Park. There's different options. I'd say with all relationships, it's really about making memories.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Anytime you're spending quality time, that time together, time together away from that electronic device.
Yes.
Because it's the device has to become that central point, and it tends to gravitate and suck away all the energy and attention. And
because if you're doing everything to get the picture, like I love pictures as well. I am part of this generation. But, you know, if you're doing everything to get the picture, it does take away from the quality of the time, especially with kids.
Yeah.
You know, so it's important to put it down and get into the moment. That's what we call mindfulness, is being present in the moment. And so that's, you know, eliminating distractions is one way of doing that.
Fantastic. On that note, let's take a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we'll take a turn into the romance side of things and the personal relationships.
All right.
We'll be back with more talk today right after this.
It's Christmas fun for all with the Flow Quad Play Bundle for a year and weekly draws for Samsung soundbars. To win, sign up for any Flow service, including our new Quad Play Bundle. Top up $25 or more, or pay your bill on time and in full. Our Quad Play Bundle is filled with the fastest broadband, HD quality Flow Evo TV, excellent mobile call quality, and home phone with up to 2,800 international minutes. With over $40,000 in prizes, that's fun for all with Flow. Visit discoverflow.ky for more. Terms and conditions apply.
This health flash is brought to you by Cleveland Clinic, Florida. Over 65 million people around the world have moderate or severe COPD, a family of diseases that includes emphysema and chronic bronchitis. Cleveland Clinic, Florida offers a wide range of management and treatment options for COPD, including programs focused on education, medication, smoking cessation, and pulmonary rehabilitation. A team of experts is ready to review your symptoms and test results to develop a comprehensive treatment plan. For more information, visit clevelandclinicflorida.org.
The holidays wouldn't be the same without a little boom from Fireworks Limited. K-Man's biggest firework discount megastore is now open behind Massive Equipment in Industrial Park. Fireworks Limited has a megastore full of new fireworks and offers huge volume discounts. Stock up early and save big with free gifts with every purchase and the biggest variety of products on island. Fireworks Limited is behind Massive in Industrial Park with tons of parking. Open until 6 p.m. every day except Sunday and open until 8 p.m. on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve.
You need Fidelity Health. At Fidelity, they offer great coverage through a highly rated and trusted carrier, payments I can afford, and with no on-island deductible on all the plans they offer. Best of all, they offered my company 50% back on the first month's premium.
Make the easy switch to Fidelity today and get 50% cash back on your first month's premium until December 31st. Call 949-7822 to make your switch now.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio K-Man's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in for today's show, I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And we have in studio Dr. Lexi Bodden, and we're exploring how to approach New Year's resolutions with regards to enhancing your personal relationships. And we were just discussing the parenting side of the coin and how we can enhance our relationships with our kids next year, whether it be by reducing screen time and spending more quality time together and taking on new adventures within our family. Now we're going to turn the conversation towards the romance side of the scenario and whether it's enhancing our relationships with our partners.
Yeah.
Dr. Bodden.
Yeah, and I think that love is what we're all looking for, so this will be a really interesting part. And I think something that a lot of us spend a lot of our time thinking about as well. So with partners, there's so many aspects of it. One of my favorite ways of approaching relationships is actually something called the 5 love languages. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
I read the book. Yeah, I read the book a number of years ago.
Yeah. So Gary Chapman actually advanced it. And so it's a really interesting way of understanding that we all give and show love, give and receive love in different ways. And so he actually breaks it down into the 5 love languages. Let me see if I can get them. Physical affection, which is things like hugs, kisses, that kind of thing. Giving gifts, which is that we like to either give or receive tokens, so actual physical gifts. Quality time, which is spending time without screens together.
Yep.
Yeah, acts of service that we like them to be doing things with us.
Correct.
And the 5th one is acts of service, physical touch. Okay. Well, I will remember the 5th one in a minute, but it gives different ways of being able to interact with others. And so a lot of times if we speak different love languages, and actually Dr. Chapman has modified it for teens, for different kinds of relationships. So he's got really interesting ways of presenting it. And so with that, if you're speaking different love languages, a lot of times it feels like the other person doesn't care about us. And so if you are if you're the quality time kind of person, but your partner's a gift person, you might be like, I don't understand why he keeps throwing money at me when I just want to spend time.
Acts of service.
Yes, acts of service. I said that one, though.
Is that what you said? Okay.
Yes.
I was trying to remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll look them up in a second. But there's lots of different ways that we show love and that we receive love. So if there's a disjuncture there, then it might be that, we are trying to show that we care, but the other person's not receiving it, which is unhurtful and can create distance between us.
Yeah, it's inadvertent. That's one of the big parts about the book that really stuck out to me was it's inadvertently hurting your partner, you don't realize you're causing hurt because you're trying to show them love when they're actually going, you don't get me.
Yes.
You don't listen. You're not listening to what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's where the disconnect happens. And then over time, that disconnect just continues to grow until kaboom, it all falls out.
Exactly. So if we can figure out ways of being able to show love in the way that our partner receives it, then not only does it show that we care and we're trying because our partner is now aware that we're making conscious efforts to please them and be close with them. Thank you.
Susan Watson, the one and only, pulled that one out.
And that's that we like to hear it.
Yes.
That I love yous and I care about you. Those. So there's lots of different ways of showing and receiving love.
Correct.
And so it's a great way to just start the conversation, really, about how we're feeling in the relationship and what we want more of. And I think that that's, one of my favorite ways of understanding relationships actually comes from something my mom told me, which is that a relationship should equal 200%. The person should complement you, not complete you. And so that way you need to have two whole people in a relationship for it to work, which I think is great because a lot of times we look for someone who completes us and that we need to be with them. Whereas really for a healthy relationship, we need to have two whole people and they should join you in your life and make your life better is the idea, as opposed to needing them and them filling a void. So.
It's an interesting dynamic way of looking at it because nature-wise, you kind of feel like you want that complementary kind of force. And what you're saying is you want that complementary force while you're at 100%.
Yes.
While both are at 100%.
Exactly.
And that's when you want the compliment. You don't want to be complimenting when you're at 50% because if one drops the ball, then...
Yeah. Well, if it's meeting needs that should be fulfilled on your own or in other ways, right? So when it becomes neediness and you have to have that person there, it can create unhealthy dynamics if you're being overly reliant on them. If you are looking to them for more than they're able to give, then they can put stress on them as well. We often say we don't like people who are needy. So that's what we're trying to avoid, is that being able to meet your own needs as best you can. But then, yes, they will provide companionship and love as well.
Okay, so when we talk about the 5 love languages we want, and we're looking to enhance those and enhance how we actually enhance what our partners actually needs to receive, because that's what it comes down to. It's not what you want to give, it's what the other partner wants to receive. And that was one of the parts that really stuck out of the book to me.
Yeah.
Well, where do we start that when we talk about the 5 different parts? We talk about physical intimacy. Acts. I'm not going to try to go all 5, so I'll forget one of them.
Yeah, it's trickier than I thought it was going to be. If I wasn't on air, I could have told you all of them.
So how do we start tackling that? I guess it starts with a conversation with our partner about how do you even approach that conversation?
It's there's actually a really simple quiz you can download off the internet.
Okay.
And so that can be it's kind of like a little personality quiz that gives you a profile of your highest love language, and it works down to the one that you're lowest in. And that can be a great way of beginning to talk about things. So when I work with families and couples, a lot of times it is, you're really working for compromise. You want relationships to be rewarding for both people. And so, it's letting the other person know what you want more of, but also acknowledging when they do it, right? And that works. And so even with the kids, we talk about catch them being good.
Yes.
It's being able to communicate what you need in a relationship or what you'd like to have, which is important, provided the other person's responsive and able and willing to meet your needs. And then also reciprocating, but acknowledging that you're seeing that they're making the efforts. So if you know that he is the gift-giving kind of guy, but he takes the afternoon off work to come and spend time with you, acknowledging that. To you, that's what you do when you love someone. But for him, that may be a much bigger step than he would have thought of, and that's kind of outside of his comfort zone. So letting him know that you appreciate that.
Fair enough. So, that makes sense. It does make sense having or definitely showing that appreciation and that acknowledgement.
Yeah, for you and for the other person, right? People like it when our efforts are acknowledged, but if in acknowledging it, it works on multiple levels. A, it shows that they care because they're trying. B, you let them know that you see that they're trying. And C, you know that they're trying for you. Right? So in that way, it works on multiple levels. A lot of times we've done shows on gratitude, and in relationships, that's a huge part as well, of putting our best foot forward, doing what we can, and acknowledging what the other person has done as well.
All right. So just remind our listeners, the book is Gary Chapman's The Five Love Languages. And if they're looking to actually figure out a bit more about what their personality traits would feed into which love language would be their primary love language and their secondary language, where can they go and download this quiz?
It is available online. I think I might have it on drbodden.com as well.
Okay.
I did a blog on the 5 love languages because, so it has a religious base to it. He is a pastor, but it's something that I use. The love languages themselves aren't tied to any kind of religion. Okay. But anyone who's interested in that side, his site will have a lot more information on it as well. Okay. So it's Dr. Gary Chapman and the 5 love languages.
Now, we talked about just now with the parenting side, the phone.
Yes.
And how the phone can cause so many rifts with regards to face time for kids or screen time for kids, but relationships. I mean, we have you see all these memes pop up on Facebook on a regular basis of the couple in bed and they're both looking at their phone, and the photographer who actually replicated photos of people holding their phone and took the phone out of the picture to show just how depressing. It just shows how depressing. It shows a stark contrast to how. Reality is when you take those phones away from the equation.
Yeah.
How do phones affect? Let's start with the basic. How do phones actually affect personal relationships?
Well, so what happens is, and I will say there are pros to social media in that it allows us to connect to many people who are far away. But what it does is it removes us from the moment with the people that we're with. It kills me I've been guilty of it as well, but to see like couples out at dinner and they're both on their phones. Right? At bedtime, you also then get the black light that's going to then interfere with your sleep as well. Correct. So they cause issues on multiple levels, but also a lot of times, not only are you removed from it, you're not actually enjoying the experience and actually fully a part of it. You're missing a chance to grow closer with the person, right? But also a lot of times, and this is what is interesting, is that we do get very caught up with making sure it looks like we're having a good time. This is where I talk about the pictures with the kids, is I've noticed a lot of times people will do that. They'll take a picture so it looks like we're having a great time, but then they're on their phone
yes.
right afterwards, which then puts a false face forward for us, but also for other people. And that's what causes a lot of distress in the teens, is that it looks like everyone else is having such a great time because of what they see on social media, when the reality is that everyone else is just living their life as well, and everyone else has the difficulties too. So it really removes us, but then can complicate things in other ways with other friendships after.
So what are some of the tricks and tips you could recommend, other than this is straightforward, put the phone away? What can you actually, my suggestion was turn the phone off. Because if you turn the phone off, it's a pain to actually turn the phone back on because you have to wait for it to load back up.
It's true.
And so turning it off just meant that, and some people have severe anxiety. The thought of even turning off their phone.
Oh, yeah. Especially kids and teens.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what are some of the tips you can suggest for couples to reduce their phone time if that's a problem in the relationship?
Yeah, I'd say agree to a time when you will have your phones, and then put the phones away for other activities. And so whether it is going to be dinner or for watching a movie, if you are someone that has to have it on for work, like I know I do sometimes, then, make sure that you can put it away from you so you're not tempted to go into it. I know notifications pop up on my phone all the time.
You could swap phones. That would stop it all.
That creates other issues sometimes. But yeah, I'd say put it out of reach. Put it away from you. Yep. I know a lot of times they'll say, like when people are doing homework or something, put it in a drawer. So if you can put it out of sight, that way you're not tempted to pick it up. And you're like, oh, I'll just respond to this message. But then you have to check Facebook, or then you get an email. And it leads you down a rabbit hole.
It does.
So
that is a rabbit hole.
Yeah, so even if you agree that you'll have dinner from 6 to 7, check your phone at 7 o'clock, then fair enough.
It's amazing how the phones really have taken such a dominant factor in our lives.
I even have an app on my phone because sometimes I do have to answer my phone, like for work or if there's something going on with family. So I actually have an app that will block everything other than certain phone numbers. And
what
so
app is
that? It is Do Not Disturb.
It's a great suggestion. I mean, it's great for couples, unless it is the needed, like the work or the family of that special
or your
person,
child or
whoever it is that's calling.
Yeah. And so it actually turns my phone ringer off at 10 o'clock at night. It turns it back on at 6 in the morning, unless if it's certain people on my favorites list. And I also have it that if someone calls multiple times, so like in case there's an emergency with someone else, if they call more than twice in 15 minutes, then it allows it through.
See, technology isn't all bad.
No,
it's got some intelligent factors
really,
like that.
Some really cool things that are available. There's even apps that will track your your screen time. That's really interesting.
Okay.
I forget what that one's called, but it will tell you how long you spend on social media, on the internet, and on your phone in general. Yeah,
that's a great one. So for evaluating your
see where you fall on the continuum,
screen time consumption. And we do have Dr. Lockhart, who has just joined us in the studio. How are you?
I'm Heather Lockhart.
Yes, so Dr. Lockhart.
No.
Oh, my apologies.
I'm Heather Lockhart. I'm a life coach. I work with Dr. Lockhart. It's part of our medical practice, BHAC.
Gotcha.
So I'm Heather Lockhart. My coaching practice within BHAC is called the Clarity Hub. So I'm excited to be here today. Sorry I'm joining you a little late.
No, thank you for joining us.
Another event, but it sounds like I'm joining a very lively discussion here.
Yeah, it is. We were talking about the whole purpose of today's show is talking about 2019 New Year's resolutions and how we can enhance our relationships.
Excellent.
So we started off with parenting and some of the tips we can use on parenting side, and now we're talking about the meaty one, which is all about relationships and couples. Excellent. And how we can enhance those relationships.
Yeah. I'm going to pass this over to you then.
So the next question, so we have reducing the screen time, and I love that app scenario, Do Not Disturb. Definitely probably a winner for 2019 for relationships. What about scenarios where we have a couple now who the holidays, arguments happen on a regular basis sometimes? Well, we have couples who are in the downward slide currently, and they're trying to get out of that downward slide. That downward cycle is just causing argument after argument. Mm-hmm. What can they do to reverse that downward cycle and bring it back to a lively, loving relationship?
Yeah. Well, I'd say it depends on how difficult things have gotten and what's happened between them. My work in this field has taught me that relationships can go through anything. I no longer believe in black and white rules around relationships because depends on the people and and if they want to be in the relationship as well. I'd say if there's been a lot of difficulties, they might want to look at something like couples counseling to be able to work through what's going on. If it's a part of the couple, if there's something that's more difficult for one of the partners, they might look at therapy on their own. But a lot of times it is going to be coming together to talk about what happened and what's going on. And a lot of times people are really hurt in those relationships, and it comes across as anger. They're very frustrated. Something's happened before that they're upset about, or a lot of things have happened before that haven't really been properly addressed. And so that's where therapy can be helpful, to have a safe place to come in and talk about what's going on, and having a third party, an objective third party, to help you work through the difficulties and giving you skills and tools along the way. Yeah. Ms. Heather and I often do workshops on communication, which is such a big part. A lot of times I say things work until they don't, right? And so couples may have different patterns that worked initially in the relationship while they were dating, when they first got married. Once you get kids, you have a couple job changes, different things happen. The people have now changed and the relationship has changed. And so it takes both parties, both persons in it, to be able to be flexible and adaptable, to be able to work through it. And so being able to come in and talk about things and taking time to reflect to see what you need in the relationship and what you want, which might be different than it used to be, and that's okay. And then coming in to talk about how you might get those needs met in the relationship.
And there's many different directions to go in terms of support. It might be talking to your pastor. Mm-hmm. So just reaching out and getting that support you need, just taking that
third
first
party, that third independent party, and
because venting to family members and that kind of thing, it's not helpful.
No,
or Facebook or anything like that.
No.
So getting some support that's some type of formal support can often be very helpful.
So we have counseling. We have not Facebook. Pastors or the church services that are available.
Yeah.
Any other the coaching services that are available as well.
Yes, and I don't do couples coaching or anything like that, but I do help people that are sometimes in that area of marital stress, and I can help the individual, even though I don't do anything like that. I do help them decide sometimes who they want to be in that area of their life. If they're considering a change, maybe leaving a partner, I help them communicate better, decide what's the happiness loop look like for them, who they are in that area.
On that note, we do take a quick commercial break, and then we have a caller on the line. Great. We'll be back with more Talk Today right after this.
At KFC, we believe you don't have to share a last name to be a family. Whether it's an office party, holiday fete, or family gathering, enjoy KFC's fresh, hand-breaded finger-lickin' good chicken. The KFC Festive Feast includes 10 pieces of original recipe or spicy chicken, creamy mashed potatoes, tasty coleslaw, and warm biscuits. KFC's holiday catering menu includes buckets of hot wings, sweet chili wings, or chicken tenders. KFC, it's finger-lickin' good.
It's Christmas fun for all with the Flow Quad Play Bundle for a year and weekly draws for Samsung soundbars. To win, sign up for any Flow service, including our new Quad Play Bundle. Top up $25 or more, or pay your bill on time and in full. Our Quad Play Bundle is filled with the fastest broadband, HD quality Flow Evo TV, excellent mobile call quality, and home phone with up to 2,800 international minutes. With over $40,000 in prizes, that's fun for all with Flow. Visit discoverflow.ky for more. Terms and conditions apply.
The only bad workout is the one that never happened. Make 2019 the year you commit to fitness. Let King Sports Center put you on the right track with their Get Fit 2019 sale from December 15th to January 15th. 2-for-1 Powerhouse Gym memberships for $600 or a single membership for $325. And call them to find out how you can take an additional $100 off this sale price. 946-5464 or visit kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, providing your fitness, recreation, and relaxation needs. Remember, fit is not a destination. It is a way of life.
Headlines. With the latest headlines.
Headlines.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio K-Man for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of K-Man's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Headlines.
Turning to international news. Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio K-Man News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio K-Man's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in for today's show, I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks. And we have in studio Dr. Lexi Bodden and Heather Lockhart here discussing enhancing your personal relationships in 2019. And we do have a caller on the line. Hello, caller.
Hello, receptor.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I've been listening in a little bit to the whole discussion here, and there's been a lot of I call them crutches that has been suggestions of, I guess you could say, ways to help or try to help mitigate some of what the ailments are. But nowhere have I heard, it may have been buried somewhere in the narrative, but nowhere have I heard self-discipline come in. Now,
sorry, can you repeat that last part, Mr. Banks? Can you repeat that last part?
I said, nowhere have I heard self-discipline.
Oh, self-discipline.
Self-discipline, yeah.
Yes,
it all comes back to self. It all starts with self. And if we're not teaching the kids, if they don't have a focus and a pathway to acquiring deep self-discipline, then, I think a person without self-discipline is always on the edge of the track, riding on the edge of the track. But I've not heard self-discipline really mentioned anywhere in all this narrative.
Now, when you say self-discipline, you're referring to people taking personal responsibility in their actions and how their actions affect others?
That's where it begins, I think.
It's a great point, actually, and we'll actually touch on that right now, actually. Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, caller. Dr. Bodden, caller's reference was towards starting from childhood, the absence of self-discipline and taking personal responsibility for one's own actions and how that carries over into adulthood and into our adult relationships.
Yeah. No, I think that's definitely important. And with kids, they learn that through the structure at home. It's going to begin externally by providing rules and expectations of them at home, which is where rules and expectations are so important. And in that way, they learn to deal with having, expectations of them, what to do when they can't do everything that they want, in order to learn to deal with that stress that comes with that, and learning ways of being able to work through things and eventually talk through things as well. As they get older, and there's a bit more flexibility, encouraging them to come to the table and be a part of the conversation as to what's expected. For adults, it's definitely going to be being aware of, as I said, what you need in relationships and your role in potential conflicts as well. So we are going to talk about, kind of the art of fair fighting. And that actually begins with reflecting on what's actually going on before you start the conversation. What has happened and what are you actually upset about? And so one of the examples I often give is that you get home and your partner's not taking out the trash. Are you really upset about the trash, or is it because you got it passed over for a promotion at work? Right? What are you actually upset about? Is this something you need to take up with someone else, or is this something that you need to deal with for yourself first or in another relationship? So it's important to look at that. And in regards to self-discipline, it is important to look at the role that we play in the patterns that come out in our lives. And so in therapy, that's actually how it works. Therapy is also a relationship. And so in that, we are able to identify what's going on. But just even on your own, if something keeps happening to you in different relationships or over time, looking at what you're doing that may be contributing to those difficulties. If all your relationships end with the other person leaving and never talking to you again, what is happening? If in all your relationships you feel like you're getting taken advantage of, what's happening? What are you doing, and what could you do differently to get a different response? So that would be looking at your role and what's going on. In the thick of things, it's often very hard to see that.
It is. So it's easier to, like the caller said, it's easier to point the finger to the side and say, it must be your fault.
Right.
I'm doing everything right.
Well, and the beginning of making changes is looking at what you can do differently. So even when clients are like, well, if he would just do this or if she would just do that, then I would be fine. But we can't control other people, which is a good thing and a difficult thing.
Very difficult.
Right? And that we can only provide information to other people. Right, and even with relationships, people often think that therapists will always fix a relationship, but that's not always the case. Sometimes it's time for us to move on from relationships as well. And so looking at what's working and if that relationship is contributing anything positive to your life as well, and if it's something that you're interested in continuing with too.
All right, now when we talk about those arguments and the flare-ups that do happen in relationships, what are some of the tricks you can offer people to put the fire out? The fire is burning, the argument's happening, you need to end the argument. The argument's got to stop, or the arguing has to stop.
Well, and
how do we approach that?
So arguing, anything like yelling, name-calling, anything like that, not helpful. A lot of people don't understand that, especially if you have different personalities in a relationship.
Course, yeah.
A lot of times you have one that's more reactive and just says things, and then they're done with it. And they've moved on and it goes. But if you do have a quiet person who's on the other end of that, a lot of times they do take it in, right? So I work a lot with abuse survivors, and the emotional abuse, the name-calling, the yelling, the criticizing is what people carry with them. So I don't want people to be afraid of arguments. Negotiations and discussions have to happen, right? It's two humans that are trying to work things out. But it's going to be reflecting on what's going on, like I said, about the garbage. Is this the right person to take it up with? Is this what I want to talk about? With that, taking on one thing at a time. A lot of times when we start to get into something, everything that the person has done in the last couple weeks or years comes up.
I shouldn't be laughing, but that was just the way you said it was.
Yeah, well, that's what happens, right?
Yeah,
and so then things tend to escalate, and nothing resolves.
So tackle one issue
at a time. Yeah. With it, there's something we call I statements. So it's going to be taking responsibility for your part of it, which is and owning what you're feeling and what you want from the situation as well. So I feel this way when I feel frustrated when the garbage isn't taken out. I would like for us to come up with a schedule of this to go out, or come up with another way of getting the garbage out, for that example. Taking the yous out of it as much as you can.
So it's changing the way you're speaking.
You never take out the garbage. It's a lot different than, I'm hoping that we can get the garbage out every Wednesday because they pick up the garbage Friday or Thursday. Okay. So I statements help you to help to keep the focus on you as opposed to the other person. A lot of times when I switch to you, it goes to blaming.
There's an attack and a blame.
Exactly, okay. Yeah. And no one ever, always, or never does something.
No, of course.
So sidestepping some of that language is helpful too. And if things do get too heated, if the name calling or the yelling starts, right, no arguments won by being loudest, right, which is what it often feels like. So take a break. Even couples, families I've worked with, it's been, we'll have like a code word. Even if it's just, let's take a break. I think one kid chose like peanut butter or blue elephant or something. Something that one was cool because it made everyone laugh. Then take a break, but then come back to talk about it, right? Because the flip side of the yelling and the name calling is stonewalling or the silent treatment, where we just kind of sit and things stew.
Of course.
And a lot of times it's frustrating for the other person who wants to talk about it, and then they do get louder,
yes.
Trying to re-engage. So take a break, but then do come back in and talk about it.
How do you actually come back together and talk? It sounds easy to say, let's come back together and talk about it.
Yeah.
But you have two people who are hurt, angry, frustrated, whatever it might be. How do you actually start that coming back together conversation?
Yeah. So when you take the time out, think about what is going on. What do you want from the situation, right? And then when you come back in, lead with that. This is how I'm feeling. This is what I would like to see happen. And then let the other person talk. So make sure you take turns talking and actually listen when the other person says what's going on.
Is that actively listening?
Yes. Yeah. And if it is an issue with communication, you might even reflect back. So what I'm hearing is you'd like for us to, and use your own words for what you heard the person say.
Oh, that's great. So repeating it back to them. I do it myself all the time.
But with your own words, not their words, because sometimes, especially if there's cultural differences, then there can be miscommunication with the word. One word might be something different to different people, so use your own words.
It can also be helpful to zoom out a little bit and remember what jersey you're wearing. You're on the same team. Mm-hmm. You can get so caught up in winning it and so caught up in your emotions. Sometimes you're upset with the person in the morning over something, and you're dry all day long. You're thinking, I can't wait to get home and have this out. And you're wearing two separate jerseys in your mind. Yeah. And by the time you engage in this, boy, you're ready to win it. You're bringing everything to it. But you've got to really zoom out and remember, we're in a long-term relationship here. We want harmony in the end. So it's important to get your point across and stand up for what you want to talk about, but not get so caught up in our desire to win that we lose the big picture, is that we're together with the same jersey. So to be fair, as Dr. Biden's talking about, fair fighting. But we are human beings, and we're going to get caught up in the emotion. But to zoom out and really remember the team nature of the relationship, whether that's a marriage or whatever the nature of the relationship is, that we are on the same team. And to maybe just step out. So we are, maybe if you take a moment, a time out, to reflect on, don't we live under the same house, whether this is parent-child or whatever it is, to try and remember that we're in this together and that there's going to be a day beyond this. We're going to still get up tomorrow morning and have breakfast. We're still going to have Christmas dinner together. We want to don't want anything bruising that is going to really sting later and take a week to wear off. Mm-hmm. So we want to be together here.
It's great. Actually, the saying I heard was it's not you and I. It's not you versus I. It's you and I versus the problem, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we're tackling that problem. The problem is the issue, not you. Yes. You're not the issue. We're not attacking you. We're attacking that problem. Yeah. And it's very easy to actually get caught up in the emotion. Like you said, it's so easy to get caught up in the rush of the emotion and lose sight that is the actual problem.
Yes.
So when you're coming back together, how do you actually start that initial coming back together conversation? Is there a way to actually really start it? Is there a trick or something that you can actually use? Because I'm just looking at it from even personal past. When you have those arguments, how do you actually come back after a timeout and re-engage the conversation? I kind of feel like a lot of things get swept under the rug that way because we never come back and engage the conversation. It becomes
You can try giving what you want to get. If you want to be understood, if you want to be heard, try giving out what you're trying to receive back. That's a trick that sometimes works, not always, but it can. Try to give out the emotion that you're trying to receive back. Try to put out the vibe that you're trying to receive back.
Okay.
So try to give out what you're trying to receive. Okay. That can work, not always.
Not always, but
not always.
Well,
sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, we had a question offline. Is linked similar to this is What if there has been a break in trust, and there's a breakdown in trust now, and trying to rebound back after there is a breakdown in trust? How do we approach that?
Well, so trust is a tricky thing, right? It takes time to rebuild. And so then I'd say, depending on the level of the breach of trust, it's going to take time for both parties to work on rebuilding it. A lot of times trust is built through consistency, right? So, I mean, I'm assuming infidelity is a lot of times what people are talking about, or with kids, it's going to be some violation of the rules. So it takes time to show that the other person is making some changes with what happened, and trying to correct, whatever behaviors were done. But it's important for the other person to let that person show that they can be trusted again as well.
Okay, sorry.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right, so if it is something like that, like a couple working through something where trust has been violated, it takes time, right, for the person to show that they're changing their ways. So it might be deleting the social media or cutting off whatever happened. For kids, it might be, being responsible with their phone use or car use, whatever it is. Yeah. But then as the partner or the parent, giving them a chance to show that they are working on it and that they are able to be trusted again. Trust is really hard. It's gone in an instant, and it takes a while to build back.
It takes years to build, and
exactly. But if both persons are interested in it, so especially in a relationship, it's important for both persons to own their part in what happened. So affairs and things like that don't just happen, right? A lot of times there was already difficulties before. It's just a symptom of the problem.
Of course.
And so it's important for both parties to look at their role in what was going on, and if they both want to work through it, both making changes to work towards their common goal and what they want together.
Perfect. So. We do have to take a quick commercial break, but I just want to say this one quick statement. It was a statement that I had read from a class one time, and it was a teacher talking to her students, and she wrote on the board 9 plus 1, 9 plus 2, all the way down to 9 plus 9. And 9 plus 3 was written as 9 plus 3 equals 18. And it was a simple little mistake, and the whole class started laughing. And the point of the exercise was for her to point out to the students that she had written down 10 equations, only 9 of them. Only one of them was incorrect out of the 9. But all the students noted that one mistake. And it's so easy for us to pick at someone's mistakes and forget all the 90% of the things that are done so well. It's the one garbage bag that's not taken out. Right. That becomes a focal point of anger, forgetting all the other 90% of the things. I have Miss Susan Watson laughing at me in the background there.
But that's really a good point, Ray. It's important to focus on the positive.
It is.
And not nitpick on that one little thing that isn't right.
Yeah, got a perspective, right? Take that step back and actually look at the whole coin and be grateful for the 90% before you get
absolutely
too critical about the 1%.
And helpfully work through it. Let her know that there's a mistake as opposed to just laughing at her.
She wasn't laughing. She was actually suggesting that I should
for the teacher. For the teacher.
For the teacher.
Yeah.
No, she was just saying I should be a counselor.
Yes.
I don't know. But on that note, that's a good time for a quick commercial break. Be back with more talk today right after this.
Radio K-Man.
Radio K-Man's newsroom. Headline. These are the biggest stories right now.
Cruise arrivals took a big hit in November, falling from 208,000 in November 2017 to 169,000 in 2018. But on the flip side, the Cayman Islands welcomed more than 410,000 stayover visitors in the first 11 months of 2018. This represents an 11% increase over the first 11 months of 2017 and is the highest number of stayover visitors in recorded history. Total visitation for the year 2017 was 418,403. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Amos Oz, the leading Israeli author and a prominent advocate for peace between Israel and the Palestinians, has died of cancer at the age of 79. His most acclaimed works included the best-selling 2002 autobiographical novel, A Tale of Love and Darkness. It was adapted for the big screen in 2015, directed by Natalie Portman. His novels were translated into more than 40 languages. An explosion at an electrical power station in New York City on Thursday evening lit up the sky with an eerie blue light and triggered a flurry of speculation on social media. Some wondered if aliens had landed. Others thought something supernatural might be to blame for the ghostly glow. Others wondered if the hand of God was at work over New York, heralding perhaps the moment when evangelicals say true believers will be swept up or raptured to heaven. And almost 1,000 North Korean defectors have had their personal data leaked after a computer at a South Korean resettlement center was hacked. The Unification Ministry has said a personal computer at the state-run center was found to have been infected with a malicious code. The ministry said this is thought to be the first large-scale information leak involving North Korean defectors. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
Welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in for the last part of our show, I'm Raymond Singh, filling in for Mr. Sterling Twain Ebanks. And we have in studio Dr. Lexi Bodden and Miss Heather Lockhart here to discuss enhancing your personal relationships in 2019. Now, we've talked about the parenting side, the romantic relationships, and now we're going to delve into one that doesn't get a lot of airtime a lot of times, and that's friendships. And making friends as kids is relatively easy. You just kind of walk up to a group and say, hey, can I play with you? And everyone goes, yay, come play. And as adults, we tend, whether it's social anxieties or just the nature of life, of bullying, whatever it is, we tend to shy away from forming those strong adult friendships. So we'll talk about friendships. Ladies, how can we enhance our friendships and build new friendships in 2019?
It's an excellent question. I've actually had that come up as a coaching goal, that people want to build their friendships, enhance their friendships, and even make friendships. Of course, we're on an island where people come here from somewhere else, and they don't have enough friends. Yeah. And it's something that's hard for people to talk about openly.
It is.
So they come into the coaching space and say, I feel like I'm very lonely, and I don't have enough friends. It can almost be like dating. Where do you start? But there aren't really websites to match up and swipe and find friends.
No.
So that sounds like a strange thing, but it's really hard.
It is.
So even finding people to socialize with and spend time with can be, if you didn't grow up here, or even if you did grow up here, can be difficult. People marry off, they start families, and it's where do you start with finding meaningful friendships? So that's a great question, and strengthening those friendships that we do have. People can get caught up and not put the time in and find themselves lonely and looking for ways to connect again. So this is a great topic.
So when we talk about making new friends, the what I believe would be the hardest one of the three, of enhancing or growing our friendships, how can one go about meeting new friends in 2019? Is it joining a yoga studio or finding common grounds of habits? Where is it? How do we actually do that as adults?
Yeah. There's a lot of opportunities on islands, so that's where I generally look, because a lot of times friendships are based on similar values or similar interests. If people have similar interests to us, we're more likely to run into them as well, and they become part of our natural routine, which is helpful. So actually, Cayman Resident has a listing of local, of sporting activities, of volunteer activities, of service clubs. There's a lot of different avenues for meeting people in that way. I'd say if it's something that you enjoy, then that's going to give you guys a common interest anyway, whether it is yoga or tennis or horse riding, or if it is something like giving back, like a women's club, Kiwanis, Rotary, those kinds of things. Those are nice because they take some of the pressure off because they're more formal and it's structured activities, so it's what there's an expectation when you're there of what's going to be happening. But finding a group or a studio or a club that fits with you is really important as well. So I tell people it might take a couple of tries to find somewhere and some people that fit with you. But it's definitely worth it. And it's also then getting you out and doing more as well. So you're going to be feeling better as well.
Of course. Now, what if you have the more introverted personality style and you've become a victim to being trapped with living through a Facebook life and the social media life? How do you break that kind of those kind of mental barriers to get out there? Are there tips you can offer for someone who has more of an introverted personality style that has a difficult time just showing up to Kiwanis or any kind of these clubs and engaging?
Yeah. Well, a lot of times I'll work with clients on practicing those kinds of things. We'll work on ways of mitigating some of the anxiety that comes with it. Okay. Things like deep breathing. I know. From the therapist,
no,
yes.
It helps.
But it's a great way just to relax. We tend to get very tense. So what happens with social anxiety is we tend to get very nervous. What if they don't like me? What if I say something stupid? What if they judge me? And then all of a sudden they've asked us a question and we have no idea what they said.
Yeah, because
we are somewhere miles and miles away. And then we do answer the wrong question or do say something silly or something not quite appropriate, and we do get a mixed response. And that way, social anxiety can actually reinforce itself. And so I'd say when you get the chance to go in, if it's going to be something new, a lot of times I'll work with clients with practicing what they're going to say and, small talk, which is quite intimidating for a lot of people. But I say go in, try to focus on being in the moment as much as you can. And, and if it is going to be something, I think that's where classes can often be helpful because then you're not allowed to talk.
That's true. You're just doing
things like yoga, yoga especially, not allowed to talk. But there's opportunities for interactions afterwards, so it might just be building confidence, like, we might set a goal of we'll talk to one person after class or, maybe eventually asking someone for coffee to go and spend a bit more time. So it does take time. I think, especially with the younger generations, the online part has really complicated things because they feel like there's a lot of friends. They do connect with a lot of people, but in-person relationships are much different than online relationships. You get a lot more from being in person with someone. And so getting out and meeting new people is really helpful.
Now, when you say getting more from the in-person relationships versus social media or online relationships, what do you mean by getting more? Like, what are the benefits of in-person relationships versus online relationships?
Yeah. Well, the person is there. You get a lot more information for communication. With online and texting, there's so much that's lost in it. But it's different if someone is there and you can see their facial reactions. If you are upset, they can give you a hug. They can bring you over something if something has happened, if you're not feeling well. So it's just a lot more opportunities for more closeness with someone in real life.
Now, are there many benefits to... This might sound like an obvious question, but what are the benefits to actually having adult friendships? Are there actually personal benefits?
Actually, longevity is one of them.
So
people that live longer.
Okay.
People that have more friends and more social connections live longer. So that's one. That's
a huge
good reason
one.
to have
that's a pretty
friends.
good one. Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Well, and it can help us to feel better. It gives us, I'd say it's good to have different kinds of friends. You'll have the party friend, you'll have the one you turn to in difficult times, the one that's great for work support. So it's good to have different kinds of friends as well, both to help us bounce ideas off of and stay more unbalanced for ourselves, because it's good to be able to share things, get other perspectives, get some support. Logistically as well, it can be helpful too, to have more support as well. So if you've got friends that are other moms that have kids, you guys might can share pickups. So logistically as well as personally and emotionally, it can be helpful.
It can also be helpful if you're then looking at something like a job change. The more connections that you have, the easier it can be to network and things like that. So it can be helpful for your career as well.
Absolutely, tons. You made a great point there with the single mom. I'm a single dad, and a good number of my friends are single dads as well. So we have there's a huge common ground when it comes to that element, and there is that level of camaraderie that happens, which a person in a relationship that's in a regular, stable, nuclear family relationship wouldn't actually have that same perspective on.
Yeah.
Now, what about looking at it from the flip side of the coin, where we have negative or destructive friendships that are actually compromising our adult life and how we interact with our romantic relationships or our parenting style, that these are actually destructive influences. And we know that they are, and we want to manage those better. What are some of the tips and tricks you can offer for managing those friendships better next year?
Yeah. Let's say, so it's often hard because a lot of times when we get in those kinds of relationships, it's hard to see and hard to know. A lot of times friends and family will point it out first, which is frustrating, and often pushes us actually more into that relationship. So whether it is some kind of bullying going on at work or with friends, or if it is some kind of domestic violence, or even if it is just emotional abuse, that friends and family can tell that the partner is controlling and isn't treating you right. So a lot of times, when I discuss with clients, we'll talk about if there's the benefits of the relationship. There's always something that keeps them there, right? It keeps us into it, but then also exploring the difficulties of the relationship as well. Obviously, if there is any kind of violence, you're going to want safety is going to be top priority. Crisis Center provides fabulous services for that. So does Family Resource Center, all hours of the day. But otherwise, it's going to be kind of, as Ms. Heather said, kind of stepping back and looking at, even if a relationship worked for a long time, whether it was a friend or a partner, if you're at a stage where either you have changed or they have changed and it's not working anymore, it's then going to be deciding whether, if you can talk to that person about it, let them know how you're feeling and what's going on and how you would like to see things different, and hear from them what they would like to hear different from you, or if they're feeling the same way. And then seeing either if things can make improvements or if it's going to be looking at stepping away from that relationship. I think leaving relationships is often hard. We don't like to lose things.
No.
But sometimes if the balance shifts, and it might just be taking a break for a while. If you've got a friend going through a hard time or is doing things that are inconsistent with your values that you're not okay with, let them know. I always say, let them know, give them a chance. To try to make a change or to explain what's going on. It may be that you don't have the whole story. So talk to them, see if they're feeling the same way, and then you guys can work together to go through it. So people shy away from arguments thinking it's going to tear a relationship apart, but really discussions help to grow relationships because we want both people to be happy in a relationship. Otherwise, it becomes unbalanced and people leave or people get hurt. So
it's never too late to renegotiate a relationship, as Dr. Bodden's talking about. We're always shifting and changing. Sometimes we have that friend who they're asking too much of the relationship. Maybe they're going through something very difficult and it becomes a real one-way street. Or they're constantly calling you late at night. It's interfering with your family dinners or work. And they're just constantly dumping on you, and it's unfair to you, and maybe you're not in a position to support that. So it's okay to say, you know what, I love you, I appreciate you, but I don't feel I'm the best person to support you. Maybe it's time for you to talk to a counselor or someone else that can support you better or professionally, because I feel that right now this is straining our relationship. And as Dr. Bodden said, maybe it's time to step back, step out, just change those boundaries, reestablish the ground rules per se, so to save or protect the relationship, or maybe step away from it, to protect yourself. Because if it's really draining your batteries, you're not going to be able to be there for anyone else in your life. So it's important it's okay. It might be an uncomfortable conversation, but it's better for the long-term health of the relationship.
It's a great point. I think that caller mentioned earlier about self-discipline and that personal responsibility, I think that comes in to what you just said, is that you have to actually set your own boundaries and that take the responsibility for how your relationship evolves.
And also asking yourself, are you that friend?
Oh, yeah. Are you that
Are you that friend?
Are you that one? Yeah, absolutely.
I went through cancer this year. So, and I'm fine now. But I sometimes had to ask myself, am I being that person that's always negative? Does anyone look forward to talking to me? Yeah. Or am I that person that's always just dumping on everyone and saying, wow, I'm going through a really tough time? Yeah. So I had other support systems, other things that I could do to make sure that I was still able to handle my own difficulties at a time and not always just draining my friends and family. Right. So are you the friend that's just always the, wow, or was it her?
Yes.
So you really have to ask, am I being a good friend? Am I giving out what I want to receive? Am I being a good friend? We aren't always. Nothing is ever balanced. But, am I being the friend that I want that friend to be? Am I being a good friend? And are my friends, are we in a good place? It's okay to do check-ins with the people that you care about.
What a great question to ask, though. Am I being the good friend? What a very simple but very powerful question.
Yeah, friendships aren't guaranteed. No relationship is guaranteed for life. Not marriage, not any relationship. No. So you always want to check in with yourself and others. How's this going? Is there anything more I can do for you? How are we, really?
On that note, let's take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to change the topic to work relationships and improving our working relationships in 2019. Be back with more talk today right after this.
I am worried about my employees' health insurance. Are there any companies out there that I can rely on for great coverage, affordable payments, and who will work to make the switch as easy as possible? Or am I asking for too much?
You sound like you need Fidelity Health. At Fidelity, they offer great coverage through a highly rated and trusted carrier, payments I can afford, and with no on-island deductible on all the plans they offer. Best of all, they offered my company 50% back on the first month's premium.
This is too important. Today's the day I am switching to Fidelity Health.
Make the easy switch to Fidelity today and get 50% cash back on your first month's premium until December 31st. Call 949-7822 to make your switch now.
JN Money Christmas link up, or with your family, time for your fix up. JN Money Christmas link up, or with your family, time for your fix up.
Win a family vacation and link up with your family in Jamaica, or send for them with JN Money Christmas link up. From now until December 31st, just send or receive money for an instant entry. Win a road trip airfare for one, a family dinner, and a day at a theme park. Weekly spot prizes included. Call 345-945-2014 for details. Available at JN Money locations across the Cayman Islands.
Call your friends. Make a plan.
Make New Year's something to celebrate.
Let the Purple Ribbon Bus be your chauffeur. Ride free this New Year's Eve from 9 p.m. to 4 a.m. Be smart and get home safe.
This message is brought to you by the National Drug Council, EK Online, Jake Scott, Foster's, Caribbean Engineering, RCIPS, and Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman News, Year in Review.
I, Kilpatrick.
Anwar Chowdhury.
Martin Keith Roper.
It is a worrying development.
Not just our financial industry that is at risk, but our very existence.
The civil service is focused on correcting the failures.
Government is insisting on pursuing this ill-advised course of action.
We will answer any questions about the cruise berthing facility.
Beneficial ownership, arrests in government, cruise berthing facilities, 3 governors, 1 year. Catch an in-depth look back at these stories and more during Radio Cayman's Year in Review.
Radio Cayman's Year in Review, proudly brought to you by CUC. You've got the power. Health City, transforming healthcare, changing lives. Michael Webster of Cayman Insurance Center. Don't take chances with your family's future. And FSH Design. Let your imagination grow with FSH Design.
Listen to the general public.
Your thoughts are just a telephone call away. 1-800-534-8255.
What the public is saying.
Let your voice be heard. And now,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today.
And welcome back to Talk Today. In case you're just tuning in for the last bit of our show today, I'm Raymond Singh filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks, and we have Dr. Lexi Bodden and Ms. Heather Lockhart in studio discussing enhancing your relationships into 2019. And we're going to change a bit of a conversation into our working relationships. Now, Ms. Heather, if we have people out there who are looking to improve their working relationships with either their coworkers or their boss or their employees and staff, what are some of the tips and tricks you can offer for people to do that? I know it's a very big question to answer in 10 minutes, but what are some of the tips you can offer on that?
First tip I would offer is to manage your expectations.
Okay.
It's work, for one thing.
Okay.
And also to remember that you're unlikely to change the other person. So work on, changing yourself, changing, anything about your mindset or your communications, perhaps, with the other person.
Now, we say managing your expectations.
Yes.
Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yes. Oftentimes people come into coaching and they're looking for a quote-unquote dream job. I own my own company, and it's a wonderful job, but there's still imperfections in any workplace, including the one that I've created.
Of course.
I'm not a perfect boss. It's not a perfect place to work. So managing the idea that, work is going to create happiness for you. We create our own happiness. So understanding that, the communications are not going to be perfect and the relationships are not going to be perfect. So managing that expectation that you're going to have a perfect boss or an ideal boss or ideal people that report to you. And they're like any other relationships. And they're not going to be as warm or as intimate as your home relationships.
Of course.
And there's going to be some conflict there. Conflict is an expected part of the dynamic there. Dr. Bodden and I have workshops that we do with organizations about how to handle some of those dynamics. But there's always going to be some level of conflict. So those are some of the tips that I would start with, is to manage what you're expecting from your everyday interactions at work.
Fair enough.
There's not going to be hummingbirds, running around and singing in the air, right?
No,
there's going to be some conflict there. We have different and conflicting goals with the people that we work with.
Absolutely.
I would say I was actually reading a really interesting article about how to give praise. And so I think, learning about your team and what they bring to the table is a big thing as well, and learning what communication works best with others. I love that Ms. Heather said, look at how you're talking to them, right? What is their way of understanding things? Like, even with praise, do they prefer praise in public and private? It's important to say what we appreciate, and praise always apparently boosts everything. It's preferred even over money, was what this article had said. It was a Forbes article.
Sorry, you say it was
Preferred over money.
Was preferred over money. Okay.
Yeah. To kind of constantly, the boss or the manager being aware of what's going on, saying that they appreciate it, giving specific praise. So not just, hey, great job, but hey, that was a great job on the report that you did. It was really comprehensive. I love you got it in 2 days early. Being very specific with it as well. So I'd say, being clear about what you want as well. So if you are the manager, that's what we spend most of the time on in the workshops is actually communication and being assertive and saying clearly what you need and defining what it is. So it's not just, I want you to be more conscientious in your work. I want to make sure that you spell check everything before it comes in. I want to make sure that reports are done by 3, not 4:30. And being clear about what you want as well.
Okay.
So
the tip that we talk about a lot in our workshops is if you're upset at work, give it some time.
Yeah.
Give it even a few days, unless it's something very critical, because it might have a lasting impact on your career.
And we say give us some time. You mean like...
Simmer down.
Like simmer down.
Calm down,
take a break.
Especially if it's written, because that's going to follow you around for a long time.
Sure.
So write a draft, sit on it, evaluate it, contemplate it, make sure you're not misreading something. So give it a little bit of breathing room and space before you go to someone at work and address something with them, and let it sit for a day or so before you really address it. And think about what you really want to say. And emails, if you're upset, give it some time before you send anything in writing to anyone at your workplace. Even if it's just a small family-owned company, give it a little bit of time because it's going to be there forever. So if you're upset, if your emotion is high, emotion needs to be toned down at work. So give yourself a little bit of time before you address anything that's, really got your back up at work, because it's work.
It is, and that's some level of professional etiquette has to apply. And if your emotions are obviously completely allowed on a regular basis, but if you're taking advantage of your anger in those emails and in those verbal communications, whatever it might be, you're not going to have the successful relationships that you need
want.
And want.
Another thing here in Cayman is it's a very diverse culture here with people from many countries. So allow people to finish their thought. We're all in a hurry here. People think it's a quiet, slow place, but it's very, very fast-paced.
It is.
And everyone's in a hurry to get to what they want to say. So allow people to finish their thought completely, even if we might be looking at our watch and saying, you're going to finish? Let them finish their thought. And try to remember that it might mean something different where they're from. So try to really appreciate the different styles and listen to what they're saying and appreciate what does that really mean, and just appreciate the different communication styles from the different countries.
You would pass on a sheet of options to improve your work relationships, and there's another one here, learning the art of focus. Can you talk a bit about learning the art of focus? It was just the way that was phrased. It kind of really stuck out on this whole sheet for me.
Usually when someone's talking, what are we thinking about when someone's talking?
Any number of things.
A lot of times it's what we're going to say next.
Yeah,
especially if you're in a meeting.
Of course, yeah.
Meetings many say that they're not as productive as they could be, but sometimes we're thinking about what we're going to say next, how we're going to solve the problem. So try to really listen.
Okay.
We're graded on this in coaching, and they tape us, and we really get knocked for for being too far ahead with the next question. We're trying to formulate the perfect question for the client, but you're really supposed to be focused on what they're saying. Yeah. What do they really mean? What's really going on in the conversation, and not what's my perfect response. How we're going to create that next awareness, but what are they really saying? And just wait. It's okay to have a pause even after the person talks, and just digest it or ask a question about what they just said. And just reflect and say, did I get that right, or mirror it back or something. But just to really listen and chew it up in your mind for a second. But everything just goes so quickly. It's okay to just focus really on the person in that moment. Not to be the slowest person in the office and just just look like dead weight there, but to really just focus on, give that person your full attention. Now this goes back to what you guys were talking about when I first came. How difficult is it in your own office space sometimes when you've got your computer monitor on, when you've got your phone on, when there's a lot happening, when you're waiting for that perfect phone call, where you're giving that person about 5% of your attention. They're talking and you're thinking, what? Is this important right now? So if it's not possible to give that person your attention, say, you know what, we might have to talk later. Can I carve out 10 minutes for you when we're closer to lunch? So if you know you really can't tune in with that person, who's going to know it? That person that you're talking to.
Of course.
So if you really can't give them that focus, then maybe that's not especially if it's something important. When a person says, can I talk to you? Do you have a few minutes? And we all know when you say, sure. Can you get it over with? So you really want to give that person a moment when you can.
It's funny how quality time has transcended all of these conversations and relationships. Yeah. And that you need to make that investment in quality energy. And I like that what you just mentioned about if you can't actually talk right now, specify that, state that, and make
and it's
time
okay to
do
box
so.
it into and say, you know what, I've got about 6 minutes. I've got 8 minutes. I've got a conference call coming in a few minutes. And if the person knows this is a really big deal, they might be quitting or they've got an interpersonal issue, no, it's not going to happen. Well, then we need to set up a meeting or a call or something like that. And then turn your phone face down. Maybe turn the monitor off or whatever and give them your attention. So focusing on what they're really saying. We miss a lot.
Yeah.
We
really do miss a lot when we're not focused.
We do. Yeah. And very rarely, if we have that conflict relationship right now at work and we're trying to improve that for our listeners, what are some of the quick tips you can offer? I know it's not easy quick tips, but what are some of the things you can offer to improve a relationship that's currently sour in the workplace?
I would say try to understand the other person's perspective. Try to see where they're coming from. It might just be different personalities, differences in cultures. And that may help you to better understand what's going on with them. Okay. And if needs be, HR is often helpful, right? I'd say try and take it up with the person. Well, first sit and see if it's something that you might be doing that's contributing to it. Very good. Reflect on some of the interactions that you've had. Maybe run it by some of your friends. Is this person like this just with you? Is this person like this with everyone? That would, a lot of times when people come in with difficulties, as I ask them to observe what's happening at work, that person actually has difficulties with everyone. In that case, it's about that person, not about them.
Of course.
If it is just with them, it might be worthwhile them, maybe like Ms. Heather said, asking them to put aside some time to speak, to discuss what's going on. If that person's not open to that or that doesn't work, then a lot of times workplaces do have HR or a manager who's able to then assist with intervening that, especially if it's affecting the workplace like productivity.
Of course.
Then they're going to be interested in that as well because it's affecting everything.
Yep. Once it affects the bottom line, it tends to affect a lot of things.
Yeah, if it's someone who's just on the other side of the office and just bothers you that they don't say hello in the morning, it might just be about managing expectations. And in my work, I call them environmental hazards. Just going to be accepting that person's not like that and learning to be okay with that. There's different personalities and different cultural beliefs and everything and different practices.
Very well said.
That might be okay.
Ms. Heather, any final points?
Well, I was just going to add one thing to that. Ask yourself, do you behave any differently with that person as well? Does your defensive mode come on the minute that you see them? Are you bringing any assumptions into the conversation that you're expecting them just to be, negative? So that conversation starts out kind of negative. Maybe it is true that they're just negative all the time, but are you bringing anything into that conversation from square one that brings a negative tone to it? Every conversation is a brand new chance to have things be different. So you can do your best to come in with an open mind and an open attitude and body language that says, I'm ready for a good conversation. Because you might be coming with your arms crossed, ready for another bad conversation. And you've already told that person, I don't like you. So we can always try to have a good conversation every time.
Absolutely. And smile. How about a genuine smile? Yes. You can always win a lot of hearts with a genuine smile, right?
Yeah, it actually helps us to feel better too.
So, it does.
Oh yeah, it cools the blood in your face, and you feel happier.
No, absolutely. I'm in sales, and in any sales meeting they'll talk to you about, even on phone sales, is smile when you're on the phone with someone because it will carry over on the other end. Ladies, thank you so much. We covered a wealth of information today on relationships, and hopefully our listeners have picked up some useful tips to enhance their relationships in 2019, and Happy New Year to you two.
All right. Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much for having us
today. On
that
note, we do need to call it a wrap for Talk Today this afternoon. Thank you to all of our loyal listeners in Radio Cayman Nation, and to our guests, Ms. Tracy E. Banks from the Cayman Islands Development Bank, and Dr. Lexi Bodden and Ms. Heather Lockhart. And a very big thank you as well to the one and only Ms. Susan Watson. It was a pleasure filling in for Mr. Sterling Dwayne E. Banks, who will be back in studio on Monday. And we wish you all the best on any New Year's resolutions you have planned, and a very happy 2019. I'm Raymond Singh. God bless and have a safe and great weekend.
Shaken yet standing firm. This is Radio Cayman in the Cayman